started here. On behalf of SMUD, welcome to the course, Alternative Cost-Effective Strategies to an Electrical Service Upgrade. This is part of the Going All Electric courses, which are developed specifically to support customers in their decision to choose to go all electric in their homes or businesses. My name is Joey Penniman, and I have the privilege of serving as SMUD's energy educator, where my goal is to offer free educational courses to all of SMUD's customers. SMUD is a not-for-profit utility owned by you, our ratepayers, and because we are community-owned, we are focused on our customers. That's one of the reasons why we offer a variety of educational and online resources. This workshop supports SMUD's clean energy vision to have 100% carbon-free energy production by 2030. This workshop is being recorded and will be uploaded to our website at smud.org/learn. After this presentation, you will receive an email from us to take a short survey to allow you to both provide feedback about the course and request topics for future courses. For those that are joining us online, you will be muted but may ask questions via the chat area on the side of your screen, or please raise your hand and we will unmute you. If we can't get to your questions during the webinar, we'll address them at the end of the presentation. If there are any unanswered questions, I will collect those personally and seek out answers for us and send you an email response as soon as possible. For those that are in the room, please note the emergency exits are to my left and behind me. In the event of an emergency, we'll exit through those doors and walk along S Street over to the east side of the building where we'll all gather and make sure we have a head count. Bathrooms are directly behind us. And finally, please silence your cell phones during the formal presentation. And now I'm very excited to be able to introduce today's speakers, Liz Cutlip and Mike Connolly from Span.io. Liz Cutlip is an installer sales representative at Span, a cutting-edge technology company dedicated to revolutionizing residential electrification. In this role, she fosters partnerships with installation professionals, ensuring seamless integration of Span's innovative products in the market. Drawing from her extensive background as a mechanical engineer and project manager, Liz brings a wealth of expertise to the current role. Previously, she worked at the largest utility company in Michigan, where she specialized in hydroelectric dam and gas construction projects. Additionally, Liz has contributed to, I'm not even going to say that right, perovskite,
yeah, you did.
a solar cell research in collaboration with the National Renewable Energy Lab, further expanding her knowledge and experience in renewable energy technologies. Liz has worked in the energy industry her entire career and is deeply committed to empowering individuals and communities with electrification solutions, facilitating the transition toward a more sustainable future. Mike Connolly is a senior technical specialist at Span, a technology company reinventing the electrical panel to enable the rapid adoption of renewable energy and the implementation of residential electrification products. He provides technical counsel to installation partners regarding implementing Span products in the field. Mike also develops curricula that support integrating Span products into the home ecosystem. He is passionate about bringing energy resilience and independence to people, giving them the power to generate, store, and consume energy locally. Mike has more than 15 years of experience in the renewable industry. His field and classroom expertise in solar and battery storage systems make him an invaluable resource to Span and our customers. Before joining Span, he served as a regional technical specialist at Tesla, where he focused on educating installers and customers to utilize and install energy systems effectively and efficiently. And with that, I'll hand it over to our instructors. Thank you all for joining us.
All right. First off, I just want to thank SMUD for having us here today. Really appreciate this. Today, we're going to cover what causes utility upgrades, what future plans customers may have for these upgrades. We'll go over some solutions, and then we'll talk about Span's Power Up technology. So before we get started, I'd like to just outline a few of the differences between what the utility owns and what the customer owns. So looking at this diagram, the utility typically takes care of the power lines coming into the home. Those are the conductors that are coming in either above ground or below ground. The transformer, which is typically attached to a pad or the pole, and then the meter bulb, which is attached to the meter socket enclosure. As customers, you are responsible for the meter socket enclosure. So that's the gray box, typically a gray box on the side of your house. The service mast, which is the conduit or piping that runs up the home if you have an overhead service. the weatherhead, which is where the conductors or wires come into that conduit, or the ground rods and the conductors that are connected to that. So I would like to differentiate the difference between a panel upgrade and a service upgrade now.
Yeah, so the biggest difference and something that you would see between a panel and a service upgrade. So when we say panel upgrade, that is that means that we're replacing the panel that's on the house. Doesn't mean that the service or the things that the utility owns needs to be changed at all. So some common reasons for needing to replace a panel or do a panel upgrade is maybe if your home has an older panel or you're running out of breaker space. Another reason would be there are some panels out there that could be out of code and you maybe are getting an insurance assessment for new home insurance, and that person advises you that you have a panel that's out of code and could be a fire hazard, and so it would impact your home insurance. So all those could be reasons to replace your electric panel. The difference there than that coming forward can also come into like solar inverters, and Mike will talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so another reason for a panel upgrade would be adding solar or batteries to your home. This can create a need for a higher capacity electric panel. This is oftentimes if you're putting in a larger system than the existing the current panel can handle. So a limiting factor would be the busing, the connective material inside your panel, which would limit your ability to put a larger PV system on the home, as well as a battery system. So if you upgrade the panel, you're upgrading the internal components, the internal capacity of that panel, which will allow for a larger PV system, batteries, and this can essentially give you more energy offset.
So the big reason why we're here today is to talk about electrification and what happens when we fully electrify our home. So on the flip side of a panel upgrade, there are utility service upgrades. And so what you're seeing here is sometimes when people have an older home or maybe a smaller home, they have what we would say 100 amps of service. So if you can see on the graph on the right, it's a simulation of a home that's trying to go all electric. And the addition of that water heater around, looks like maybe 5 or 6 p.m. Is getting them to over that 80% threshold of their max amperage of their home. In this case, if you were to add all these things like an electric water heater, a heat pump space heater, electric clothes dryer, an EV charger, and electric cooktop, on this 100 amp service, it would trigger for a service upgrade. Service upgrades can be costly and take a lot of time, because sometimes the wiring that's feeding the house is underground, and that service can take a while to be able to fully replace it. Something to note here as we are fully electrifying and people are pursuing electric vehicles is when you do pursue to get an electric appliance is to make sure that you're able to adjust to be able to use all of the electricity within the home and not hit your max amperage limit. So a little bit more of like a double click on that EV charger scenario. So I work with electricians all day, and the number one reason why they say that people are getting service upgrades right now is because they're getting an EV charger. Anecdotally, I can give you an experience that happened in the North Bay, a little bit down the road from here. But one of my coworkers, his mom actually purchased her first electric vehicle, was really excited about it, brought her vehicle home and found out that she didn't have enough space, ampacity wise, not space and breakers, to be able to get a level 2 EV charger. So she wasn't going to be able to charge her vehicle at home. And she got quoted for a service upgrade. Service upgrades, like I said, can be really costly. And then you're making this investment in a vehicle. And then once that vehicle arrives, you're going to have to get a service upgrade. So this added cost. So in this scenario is very similar to what my coworker's mom experienced, where this person has a 100 amp service, and they want to get an EV charger, a level 2 EV charger, which is that fast residential charging. They have 100 amps of service, and so the max load before adding adding that EV charger was sitting at 80 amps. So that means that an EV charger can require anywhere from 32 to 48 amps for charging. And so that additional 48 amps is going to set us over that 100 amp limit. And most of the time, if you were to call an electrician, they would tell you you need to get a service upgrade, which is a way added cost to that estimate.
Okay, so now we're going to differentiate the two different types of service upgrades. So the most common, I think, is an overhead service upgrade. And what's involved in an overhead service upgrade is replacing the wires that come in from the pole. So those are the utility-owned conductors or wires. And then also replacing the old electric panel. So when you upgrade from 100 amps to 200 amps, the existing panel may not support 200 amps of service, and the conductors will absolutely be upgraded as well. The other type of upgrade is an underground service upgrade. So this is much more intrusive to the customer as it involves trenching, and these can push the projects back. You'll have to replace the existing electrical equipment as well. And this can cost a homeowner the additional $2,000 to $5,000 per project. In addition to this, the price will rise based on complexity. So taking things into consideration, like the distance from the transformer to the home, and also the complexity around that distance. So this involves updating the panel. This involves updating the conduit that carries the conductors, as well as the conductors or wires that run from the transformer to the home. So we're going to look at some solutions here. Options to help prevent service upgrades. So if, like Liz stated earlier, EV chargers are one of the things that causes an update, a required upgrade. This device allows you to switch between your washer, your dryer, and your EV charger. This is also, taking into consideration the proximity of your dryer outlet in comparison to your in comparison to where your car will actually charge. So this may not be an option for everyone, but this allows you to switch smartly between your dryer and your EV charger. This device may also allow you to have multiple EV chargers and allow you to charge your cars simultaneously. This is in a similar note. This is another one of those devices, a little bit less intrusive than the previous, but this allows you to either charge multiple cars simultaneously, or operate a washer dryer in comparison with the EV. Similar thing. This is a dryer buddy. It's an outlet splitter, much like the previous two examples. This is a little bit more complicated and will probably require an electrician to come in and add this device. But this is a DCC-10. It's an energy management system that's specifically designed to allow the connection of an EV charger to the panel at full capacity that otherwise would require a service upgrade. So this device would come in. It uses split core current transformers to monitor the whole home, the consumption of the whole home, and allows you to detect when consumption exceeds 80% of the main breaker capacity, de-energizing the EV charger to prevent a nuisance trip of your main breaker. All right, now we're going to get into some of SPAN's solutions, and I'm just going to exit this real quick. Control L.
I was saying, talking about the looming doom of having to potentially get a utility service upgrade. As we're working in this electrification space, people are trying to get rid of gas appliances, just like that video was just talking about. The reality is that about 98% of the people in the Northern California area actually use 88 amps or less at max amperage times. And so the reality is, if we had things like maybe an energy management system, we could get rid of the need for a utility service upgrade. what we can see here is a graph of two scenarios. So what SPAN did is we saw this opportunity in the market space because we make a smart electric panel that can monitor and control each circuit within the home. We're actually able to help keep each circuit below that max amperage threshold to make it so that we don't require a utility service upgrade. So if you can see on the graph on the left, it was like that example where I was saying my coworker's mom, she got her first EV and she was all excited and then couldn't get an electric vehicle on her home because she was her load calculations, which is some math that an electrician will do to make sure your home is safe, we're going to trigger for a utility service upgrade. In the graph on the right, this is as if she was going to get a SPAN panel instead. So what you can see is, so we both manufacture a smart electric panel and a smart EV charger called the SPAN Drive. The SPAN Drive is actually able to communicate with the SPAN panel, and it can throttle the speed of charge and basically change the speed of charging based upon the allowable amperage. So if you can see the comparisons in the graphs, the peak can be shifted below 80 amps by shifting 34 minutes of that EV charging and kind of cycling that through. This is a capability that we have across the home, and Mike will talk a little bit more about all the different integrations that we have there as well.
So SPAN can control a number of different loads and appliances. Some offer a better experience than others. So if you look at this graph, you can see which loads are ideally suited for load management and some others that are not well suited for load management, meaning that they just have more of an impact on your lifestyle than the others would. So things that are ideally suited for load management are things like EV chargers. So as Liz mentioned, we do have a dynamic EV charger called SPAN Drive. This allows us to throttle the output of the EV charger in 1 amp increments, which can hopefully, keep you from having to, one, have a nuisance trip of your main breaker, or also prevent you from exceeding your 80% threshold in peak coincident load usage, which really only happens, during those, big times of year like Thanksgiving or Christmas, when you're running all those Christmas lights and other things. Other things that are very low impact on your lifestyle are resistive water heaters, pool pumps, resistive heaters, and things that are less suited would be devices like HVAC systems, where you wouldn't want to pause an HVAC system or devices that have compressors mid-cycle. Other things like oven and ranges, like we don't want to pause your oven or your range while you're potentially cooking a turkey. Lights are not ideal for pausing because we don't want the lights to turn off on us, especially at night. But things of that nature, just to give you a good idea of how and what we would like to pause. Power Up is designed to give homeowners superior experience without costly service upgrades. So as I mentioned before, we want to have as little impact on your lifestyle as possible. So things like if we pause your EV charger for 30 minutes to event a peak coincident load, you're not really going to notice that. Things like pausing the heat in your home for 10 to 15 minutes isn't going to change the temperature in your home by more than a couple of degrees, something that's unnoticeable. Conventional HVAC systems and all other circuits will be left unmanaged. So through the SPAN Home app, you're able to prioritize and opt out of loads that you can have managed. Ultimately, if we do have a peak coincident load, we will manage those circuits, but the idea is that we do this without affecting your lifestyle. So looking at the SPAN Home app, not only do we offer, energy management systems, but we offer insight into, if you're a solar customer, if you're a residential battery utilizer, we offer insights into your solar production. We offer insight into your whole home consumption as well as circuit level consumption. And we also give you circuit level control. So moving from left to right, you can see what we call our flow page. So this gives you visibility into your solar production, gives you visibility into, are you importing power from the grid? Are you exporting excess solar generation? The state of energy of your battery, things of that nature. Moving to the right, we see our circuits tab. You can view circuits by activity. So what's consuming the most power down to what's consuming the least amount of power. You can actually set up areas in your home. So areas like bedrooms, living room, kitchen, all of these can be identified and you can view your circuits in those areas. And then we also have an in-panel view. So this is how the loads physically appear in your panel. Additionally, we have circuit level insight, whole home insight. So on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis, you can view that historical data, see what your main consumers are, see where your power is going, and see how you can become more self-sufficient. This is a view, and then next to the right, we have our span drive. This is a view into the vehicle charging. So we have the ability to set charge on schedule, so you can avoid charging during peak rates. You can charge dynamically. So this is an option that comes in with our power up feature, so that you're not exceeding the capacity of your service. And then finally, this is an insight for customers who utilize residential battery systems. So one of the major benefits of having SPAN with solar and battery is that you can set a backup priority. So we give you visibility into your estimated time off grid. We give you visibility into which loads will be managed, which loads will not, and you can actually prioritize those loads based on 3 allocations. So we have our must-have circuits, we have our nice-to-have circuits, and then we have our non-essentials. So in the event of a power outage, the circuits that you have allocated to your non-essential basket will shed, and this will extend your time off grid. As the grid outage persists, your nice-to-have loads will shed at 50% state of energy of the battery, and then your must-have circuits will stay on and energized for as long as your battery system will allow.
So there's a lot to know about SPAN. And part of my job is making that a lot simpler for both the electricians that I work with and for homeowners. This flyer here is one that we can make accessible to those of the attendees that are interested in something that you can find on our website. But actually, the one reason why people choose to upgrade their panel to SPAN is to save money on their electricity bill. You all are fortunate to live in SMUD's territory and have great rates comparatively across the state. But that being said, we're all trying to become more energy efficient, maybe find a way to save money. There are some anecdotal experiences that I can share with you. I have another coworker that when she got her SPAN panel, she found out that 40% of her electricity bill was a dehumidifier in her basement. And so when she saw that within the home app, which we saw before, within all the stats that we could see, she saw that like her month-to-month data for, say, the month of March, 40% of that bill was going to be contributed to the circuit in her basement, which her dehumidifier was on. So she replaced that system and basically paid for her SPAN panel and her new dehumidifier within a couple of years. So that's the real richness in data. And where people are actually able to save that money is where they're getting those deep energy insights and they're able to control circuits from anywhere. So maybe you have an Airbnb, or you have a rental property, or you're going to be on vacation for a long time, whatever it might be. Maybe you have a kid that leaves a space heater on in the middle of the day. What you can do is you can actually go into the app on your phone and see what's actually pulling power at that given time. And then you can make sure you're not paying for electricity that you're not actually using. Part of like SMUD's vision here and helping people electrify is to help people become more efficient, and SPAN's going to enable you to do that as well. The other thing that's great is having this added value to your home. The average homeowner stays in their home for about 7 years. EV charging, solar, and battery are all tags on Zillow that people are looking for. And SPAN gives you the ability to be EV ready, solar ready, and battery ready electrification ready in general. Were you all listed as an energy management system? And so that's what gives us the ability to add that value to your home for your future expansion into getting rid of those natural gas appliances. And then finally, that gained peace of mind. If you're away from home, you can look in and see what you're utilizing. I always give the example of being a woman, and sometimes you leave your curling iron or your straightener plugged in, and it's like the biggest fear in the entire world. Ask the women in your life about it. I'm sure they will feel the same way. I live in an apartment in San Francisco, so I don't have a SMUD panel, but if I had one, I would use it all the time to check my bathroom outlet. So those kinds of things are great as well. And these are all the big reasons why SPAN makes sense. And the reality is, if you're already going to have to replace your electric panel, why would you replace it with something that is basically the same thing that you have, but maybe just a little less rusty on the outside? SPAN is, yeah.
Repeat the question. So
yeah, okay. So the question was basically, how long will the panel last? Traditional electric panels were built to last. Am I rephrasing correctly? Okay. So we have a 10-year warranty. And that's based upon any like manufacturer defects, anything like that. Two, we are built to last as well. Like I want it written on my gravestone. No one should have to replace their electric panel twice within 10 years. SPAN is built to give people the ability for whole home energy management and last as long as a normal electric panel. Do you have anything to add on like the tech side of kind of what supports that?
Yeah, I think, our panel is rated for indoor and outdoor use. Our enclosure is very robust. And it is, like Liz said, it's built to last.
Some added specs as well. The can itself is steel. The door is actually beautiful. It's glass. And so it looks really nice. And it's definitely a garage toy. There's not very often that people replace their electric panel and they're having a Super Bowl party and they bring their buddies out to the garage to look at their electric panel. SPAN is definitely one of those things. So.
That's great. Yeah.
So the electrical part of the panel sounds like it's pretty robust. How does a smart panel stay current? How does it stay relevant to the changing tides that we're seeing in both IT and the utility space?
Mm-hmm.
And how is SPAN approaching that to make sure that we're going to be current with what we choose today in 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, I'll take the first half of this if you have anything to add. So within the panel itself, there are actually two, we call pucks at the top of the electric panel. There's a cellular puck and there's also a Wi-Fi enabled puck. That cellular puck is how we pass software upgrades to the panel. So we're on our second generation of our panel. Even our generation 1 panels that are out there installed today have the same capabilities as the generation 2. That was something that was super important to me as I was making my decision to start working at SPAN, is that we're building products that we're going to continually support the software. The software behind SPAN also doesn't have a subscription fee. And so the software is what we're backing to make sure that it's going to continually be updated as our software gets smarter. The hardware of the panel was built to have those added software features.
Yeah, and just to add to that, so Power Up, which is our energy management, service feeder avoidance software, was not a part of our initial offering. This is an over-the-air update that we pushed out to the panel, and now we're offering and making a huge difference in people's ability to upgrade cost effectively. So this is very much a California use case. This is a meter main panel that is common in our utility area. And what you see here is that we are now feeding the SPAN panel downstream of this existing enclosure, not having to do too much work in order to do so. But we've pulled all of the existing loads from the meter main panel and then fed the SPAN panel from the existing service over. And now this customer has smart control, circuit level visibility and control over their loads. So this is a pretty streamlined example. That obviously there are, depending upon the logistics of your home and where your equipment exists. But this is a pretty common SPAN installation in California.
Yeah, so we're wrapping up our planned content, so bring on the questions, but this QR code here will take you to our homeowner lead form. How that works is if you're interested in potentially getting a span panel on your home and you wanted to get a quote, fill out this form, we'll match you with an installer and they'll give you a free quote. Additionally to that, any person that carries a residential electrical contractor's license in the state of California can become a span authorized installer. The training's pretty quick. So if you have an electrician that you've used in the past that you want to install your span panel, definitely still fill out this form and indicate to us on that form as well. Yeah. That's the end of our planned content. You can see our contact information here. Feel free to email either of us if you have any questions.
I'm gonna get that page set up for us, and we'll repeat the question, have it answered through the computer as well.
I think I know where you're going with that. The question was if there was some sort of failure in the technology within the panel, does it still operate as a normal electric panel? Is that your question? And the answer is yes. So it's still, we use the term dumb panel because we are a smart panel, but it's still a traditional electric panel. We use normal breakers. It's not going to fail in a way that becomes unsafe or there's no power to your home.
And for the folks online, the question that we heard from the folks in person was about what happens in the event there's some sort of a software communication failure at the panel. And sorry, Liz, do you mind?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if everybody heard.
No, and so the answer to that question would be that it fails in a state that is safe for the home. And it's just like a normal traditional panel until we can get that software back up online. But it's not very common at all.
And from what I recall of my conversations with Kurt too, and I'll try to chime in and cue you up for this. There's the stage or phase 1, 2, and 3 identifiers within the panel about the priorities of the different circuits. So if you do have some sort of a communication outage, it defaults to what it was before. Is that correct?
Yeah, and that's if you do have a battery within your home. So if you don't have a battery, we're not a battery, so you're still going to have no power.
Yeah. I think we have some additional questions in the.
So the solution. Right, there is no meter main combination. So you still need your meter main changed out. You have to just change that and just go back to the meter main. Go back to the span.
That's correct. Yeah. So the question is, we don't have. Do we have a meter main option? And the answer is currently we do not, but we do have stuff in the works that we're quite excited about, and hopefully we'll be able to show that to you soon. But so to answer your question is, sorry,
Not today.
not today. Not today. We don't have a meter main solution. So in this instance, in the California market, we are being installed as a sub panel, and we are rated. The panel is rated to be both a as a main service disconnect as well as a sub panel.
Maybe you could repeat it better, Mike. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So the question was, what ampacity is gained by going with the span solution? So our panel is rated. We have a main breaker that's rated at 200 amps that comes default in the panel. The busing inside of our panel is rated to 225. So if you were on 100 amp service, you would still need to upgrade the conductors, the wires coming into your home. You would likely still need to upgrade your meter main solution until SPAN has something available for you. But if you're already on 200 amp service, we're able to support that.
I think additionally, your question was alluding more to the fact of avoiding a service upgrade. So if you do have 100 amps of service and you are going to replace and you are going to leave your meter main combo staying there and tying in SPAN downstream of that, taking all the breakers out of your meter main, putting it into the SPAN panel. We don't have like a set number of how much ampacity you can gain from that. You can derate that main breaker down to 100 amps. We're rated from 100 to 200, so you can still avoid the service upgrade. But we actually have our own load calculation software that can tell you whether or not your house would be a good candidate for what we call Power Up, which is our energy management system software. I will say, like, I've never seen a load calc fail if it's just an addition of an EV charger, because that has been baked into the electric code since 2014. And so as long as you have an energy management system connected to that, it can be negated from the load calculation altogether. Does that answer your question?
One thing I want to mention is that it appears you could have the space for a 200 amp panels worth of breakers, and then it will still manage. If you only have a, say, a 125 amp service, you get the, not the ampacity of the actual load, but
Mhm.
it will regulate down to whatever it needs to avoid 80% of the load of the service.
That's well said.
Right,
Mhm.
exactly. Yeah, that was very well
Mhm.
said.
Mhm.
I think we have another question in the room, so I'll let them ask and then I'll repeat it back here.
A branch breaker or a main breaker? Our- Okay. So the question is, what is the max branch breaker rating that we can have in our panel? And the answer is 90 amps. We have a 90 amp branch breaker rating, and that would allow you to control a sub panel that is up to 90 amps, and that would give you full control over that panel. So if you were, let's say you had an isolated sub panel in the home that had some heavy load on it that would, compromise the battery system in some way, you could actually shed that panel as an aggregate. You'd have aggregate consumption data on that panel as well, but you would not have circuit level control over the circuits that are in that sub panel. I do want to add though, because we do have that 90 amp branch breaker rating, that limitation, we do have 200 amp rated feed through lugs on the bottom of the panel. So if you had an additional sub panel that was in excess of 90 amps, you do have the ability to feed that sub panel from those 200 amp rated feed through lugs. But again, I just want to say that those are not controlled. Those are, you only have visibility on the consumption that comes from those. Great question.
Do you have another question that we didn't? Okay.
Before we move on and let Jeff talk about incentives, does anybody have any additional questions in the room? All right, one more question. Oh, additional questions. Absolutely.
Whether it's tax or just data selling. Is there data selling? Do you sell the data?
Yeah.
So the question was around data privacy. This is a question I get all the time, so don't feel like you're silly for asking it. I can send you our privacy policy. I don't know all like the terminology of like the security that we have, but I will say we're encrypted in the same way that any other like whatever the standard for the industry is. That being said, we do not sell data and we don't have any plans of selling data, which I have pointedly asked our CEO that before. And the other part of that is we don't even give the installers that installed the panel access to the panel after the installation. So the homeowner is the only one that has access. And then if they have issues, our support team has a way to remote into the panel, not control it, but do diagnostics so that we can like help them if there's an issue. Does that help your question?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
that's cool.
Okay.
That was a big one.
Question back here.
That just good functionality and creating this sort of ad response programs from the utility.
You want to take this one?
You bet.
Okay. The question was, do we anticipate functionality in integrating with demand response programs? The answer is yes. I do not know a ton about it. I don't know if you know more, but yes.
I don't have any timelines to offer you, but yeah, it's absolutely. I mean, there's a huge market for this stuff. There's a huge demand for this type of stuff and this visibility. But yeah, absolutely. We think that our hardware, our software can absolutely benefit this type of coordination with utilities.
And I think on top of that, back to the privacy question as well, is like that's always something that a homeowner can opt into. So that's another backside of that question is like, are you going to automatically just control my panel like Big Brother? And it's like these utility programs are something that a customer is opting into for those incentives. So. Do we have other questions in the room? Okay.
Okay, I think we can turn it over to you now, Jeff. Sorry for the back and forth.
No problem. I want to thank you guys for taking all the time and bringing your stuff there. It's awesome. And SMUD, we promote technology and we love all of these things that can help to avoid panel upgrades. We love if people can go electric and avoid that. It does everything better than going to a 200 amp panel and then forcing us to possibly upgrade transformers. So using this as a win-win. We don't promote a certain brand. So we love you guys here at SPAN, but we welcome any company that wants to show off their new technology and offer these rebates for anything that can qualify in a similar manner. So even though this is sometimes called a sub-panel, in a technical way, it's a full panel with all of the busing capabilities to hold all of the breakers. So we will rebate on this if someone has a situation. We just had a couple earlier this week. One of them is getting a SPAN panel. They got a very good estimate on it, and they've got a 125 amp service. And we let the contractor know that, yes, we will rebate on 2,500 as long as the go electric requirements are met. So the 4 circuits, it's a little complicated, but basically, as long as the 4 circuits are covered when they walk away, be it existing or if they add it. So the other thing is it's future proofing. So to get access to this rebate, a customer's got to do a heat pump water heater rebated, and then or a heating and air system that's rebated through SMUD. Once you do that, you have access to it. If you need the panel first, a lot of people do, it's okay to do the panel first, and the electrician that is on the SMUD list can hold that rebate submission until the item is done. So the prerequisite, meaning the water heater or the heating and air. So just want to make sure that we can make these work for everyone. We're getting more and more electricians on our list. So competition is now getting better, and there's people that are giving better deals on these. And any questions from the audience there?
Anybody have questions on incentives? For SPAN?
Yeah.
So the question was, what's the average installation cost? It really fluctuates based on the home and the type of quote. I see anywhere from like 7,500 to like over 10 grand. But it just depends on how much wire relocation you need to do. Doesn't hurt to get a quote. The MSRP of just the panel itself is 3,500, and that does not include installation cost. I like to say that the installation is basically like installing a normal electric panel. So if you're gonna kind of subtract that out, that's what the cost of the installation would be. Yep, no monthly cost. It's not like a Peloton.
Tell him that was based on software.
Oh, that was.
He had a question about additional costs
Oh,
for the software.
Yeah, he had an additional question about cost for the software, and there is no subscription cost.
And then Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's up to a $2,500 rebate for that electrical panel from SMUD to help offset some of that cost, as well as some of the circuits that go into electrifying a home. And maybe we can scroll down for you on here to walk through that a little bit.
Yeah, the 2,500 is our Go Electric bonus. So once someone does the water heater or heating and air, now they qualify for that 2,500. They need to use electrician on the list. And the reason is we need people that know what to do. We need people that know which circuits to add and to submit the rebate electronically. So they have to be on the list. And I did see one on the low end the other day at 7,500. So that means that the customer after the 2,500, they're getting a SPAN panel upgrade with all 4 circuits covered, be it existing or not, for 5 grand. So that's right there close. A panel upgrade, 4,200. I'm just going to give a average good deal with no extra circuits, no nothing. So getting smart technology, getting into that area is great. The $500 extra is if someone already has a 200 amp panel. So if any of the remaining circuits, we'll pay $500 extra for each circuit to do it. But usually if someone is going to do this, if it's a span, it's going to get to 2,500.
Thanks, Jeff.
Mhm.
I just want to add something here at the end of this, is something that I heard Arch, our CEO, say a couple weeks ago in an all hands, is that we're helping homeowners avoid cost at day zero. So you might be making a larger investment now. And with these incentives, it's awesome that SMUD is supporting things like this, but it's also helping a homeowner not have to replace their electric panel twice within 10 years or have to do extra electrical work when they decide to continue to go electric. And so these incentives are a great way to utilize and get something like SPAN, even if it's not SPAN. Like, our company motto is to help people electrify. So we love anything in the space to help people get rid of the gas in their home.
Yeah, so the question was, what happens if connection, since our panel is connected to the internet and relies on internet connectivity for functionality, what happens if that connection goes down? And so our panel is dynamic. The connectivity is dynamic. So we have the option for Wi-Fi. We have the option for hardline Ethernet connection, which is the preferred method. But we also have a third option, which is a cellular a data plan that is a 10-year plan. And if you do lose connection from your provider, that cellular network will kick on and will offer you connectivity through that. It is a backup option. We really only recommend using the cellular connection in those cases, because the connectivity, depending upon where your location is, can be shoddy.
There was an additional question around whether or not you have to pay for that cell service.
No, you do not have to pay for that cell service. Cool. I think that's it. I think we have a few questions from Joey.
I think, thank you both for your presentation so far. Obviously, if there are any more questions, go ahead and get them into the chat and I'll get those answered for us, or I'll log them for later. But I wanted to thank our presenters today for a pretty engaging presentation and educational for me too. And Jeffrey, thank you for chiming in as well last minute. I kind of put you on the spot, but I appreciate you going through some of SMUD's programs and rebates available to our customers. So just giving a few last minutes here for questions. I had some of my own. I asked one of them earlier. But one of the questions I had that ADR does tie into, but what are some of the other upcoming opportunities you see for smart panels that they would be a good solution for?
I think the demand response is obviously one big one, but I just see, I think every person in the country is going to have something that is UL listed 916 as an energy management system, and the reality of that is that the grid can't withstand the sunset of natural gas without homeowner buy-in of being able to use power more smartly. I don't know what the grammar is on that. And like I said, the reality is most people aren't actually using their they're not actually even getting close to 80% of their max amperage. And so just being able to get around those load calculations with the energy management system, even if it's not SPAN that's installed in every home, there will be an energy management system there as well.
And I'm going to piggyback off of that comment because I've cheated everyone. I've had some discussions in advance, and this may be a little bit of a plug, but one of the questions I did have earlier on was what differentiates SPAN from a different smart panel? And I think whatever that UL number fancy word is, maybe a part of that. Do you mind expanding on that and what makes this smart panel product different from other smart panels?
Yeah, sure. So the UL 916 is the standard for energy management systems. This is something that pops up in the National Electrical Code in the Article 750.30. And sorry, what was the question?
What makes us different?
What makes us different?
What makes this,
Than other
smart panel product different? And from what I recall, that was one of the answers.
Yeah.
I think it's the circuit level control. And we are literally switching out the entire panel, whereas other offerings are kind of like at the breaker level or are limited by the amount of circuits that they control. So I think it is the amount that we can offer and the level in which we do that.
I think the other part of that too is the UL 916 listing is not new, but it's pretty new to the electric panel space. And I think we're one of the first, if not the only electric panel on the market that has the energy management system listing. And so that's something you're going to see more. And I want more people to have that so that people can fully electrify. So that's what the biggest difference is for us right now. I saw a question coming in the chat. Thanks, Ron. His question is, I have 60 amp service. What would I need to upgrade my service / panel to get HVAC and solar and charger upgrades? I would say
That's a pretty difficult question to answer just based on that information. But I think it really depends on, how much solar you want to add, what the size of the HVAC system is, what, like the square footage of your home and the charger upgrades. I think we can definitely help with the charger upgrades just right off the bat. We can keep you on that 60 amp service. But adding solar, you might be pretty limited based on your existing equipment. I guess it really depends on, if you're already on a 60 amp service, you're probably using pretty minimal electricity. So a smaller PV system might be an option for you.
something also to consider is with the federal tax incentives around solar and battery. That also includes all of the electrical work that is required for whatever solar battery or heat pump project that you might be doing. So take a look at some of the incentives there. A good tax calculator that I always recommend to people is rewiringamerica.com. And you can put in your zip code and everything, and it'll tell you what types of incentives that you can apply for.
And I'll come in here on the tail end of this, Ron. This is Joey Penniman with SMUD. It seemed like you came in late, so you might not recognize the voice. And Jeff, go ahead and keep me on the straight and narrow on this. But as far as your actual service upgrade from SMUD, we generally won't have a charge if it's under 400 amp service. But the customer, if it is undergrounded, there would be a cost for the trenching associated with that, and the customer is responsible for those costs. So my recommendation would probably, if you are considering going this route, on this just above where your post is in the chat, there's a link to the website being displayed right now, and that Find a Contractor button will lead you to a list of contractors that are familiar with this product and familiar with SMUD programs to help answer those questions more specifically for you. Jeff, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I do. A couple things. If he really only has a 60 amp service, we really got to figure out a way to get him to at least 100 before considering something different. And we have different types of questions like overhead service versus underground. If he's overhead, it's way easier. So we kind of have a flow chart of things to go through before making a decision. Okay, if it's overhead service, thank you. Then when it's overhead, we really want to find out, it's free to have a designer check and see if there's any other costs outside of the service upgrade itself. If there's not, then it might be a lot easier than we think. So we should check that out. SMUD has programs for this. We also have our low income programs too. So we do have income-based Go Electric incentives. Probably should mention because it's free.
Yeah, so we had a question in the room about new construction and whether or not that helps people staying below 400 amps. And the answer is absolutely. We have a partnership with Pulte, which is a major production building company. And part of the reason that partnership is so valuable is because of Power Up and getting them away from having to build the 400 amps of service. Oh, and another great tool is we have our load calculation software, which is called the Power Up Project Planner, PPP. Take a look at that as well. That's a good way to see if you need to get a service upgrade if you were to get SPAN. Because there obviously are homes out there that are very large and have a lot of electrical loads that we can't control. And so most of the time we're going to be able to control everything. But if we get to a point where there's too much, and we would have to start making a bad customer experience, we would recommend for a service upgrade.
Right. Well, I think unless there's any more last minute questions, we're going to give everybody 15 minutes back of their day and say thank you very much for attending. Again, thanks to our presenters from SPAN, Liz and Mike. And thank you, Jeff, for also joining us and chiming in about what SMUD has available to support our customers on this. Have a great afternoon, everyone, and thanks again.